Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to allow a few moments for everyone to come in. It takes a second for Zoom to allow everyone into the webinar. My name is Tom Hunter Pratt. I'm the multimedia specialist for ICN. I'm going to be facilitating today's webinar. I've got a few announcements before we begin. At the end of today's webinar, you will all see a prompt asking you to complete a short survey, and your feedback is valuable to us. We ask you go ahead and complete that survey. Within 24 hours of the end of the webinar, you'll be receiving follow-up emails that contain that same survey link in case you missed it, and you'll also receive a link to today's webinar recording. So be on the lookout for those. You'll get those within 24 hours. You'll also receive a certificate within 24 hours. We'll send those out as well, so be watching your email inbox for that as well. At the end of today's presentation, after all of our panelists are finished presenting, we'll do a Q&A session. So if you would, find the Q&A button on your Zoom control panel. It's at the bottom towards the right. If you would, click on that, enter any questions you have, and you'll also see that as questions come in, there's a thumbs up icon or a like button or an upvote button. If you would, click on that. If you like the question, that'll upvote that question and let us know that you really want that question answered. And so that's a cool Zoom feature in which you can interact with us. All right, well, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Chef Garrett.
Thank you, Tom Hunter. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Garrett Burdan with the Institute of Child Nutrition, and I would like to welcome you to the April 2022 CICN webinar, Think Outside the Service Line with Grab and Go menu options for NSLP and SFSP. As a reminder, during today's webinar, all attendees are muted. There will be time to answer questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the question box on your screen. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but due to our time constraints, every question may not get answered during the webinar. Individuals who have registered for the webinar will receive an email at the conclusion of the webinar. The email contains the webinar recording link and a link to the evaluation survey. Please complete the evaluation. ICN will send out the certificates within 24 hours. To assist in meeting the unique training, technical assistance, and professional development needs of school nutrition professionals, ICN has launched the Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition initiative. We work to help child nutrition professionals develop goals and implement best practices to improve the culinary aspect of program operations. Please visit the Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition online for tips and strategies for preparing and serving healthy, culinary-inspired school meals. Thank you again for joining today's webinar. The topics covered in today's webinar fall under key areas 1 and 2, nutrition and operations, and meet the USDA Professional Standards Codes 1100, 2100, 2200, and 2300. The learning objective for today's webinar is incorporate grab-and-go meal service strategies and recipes into school nutrition program operations to increase line speed and participation. Our first guest panelist is Chef Rachel Petralia. Rachel Petralia is the culinary coordinator and district executive chef for Gwinnett County Public Schools in Georgia. Since 2009, she has worked for Gwinnett, creating recipes and overseeing food safety for the district's 180,000 students. Amazing. Her expertise and unique skill set have led to her overseeing various additional responsibilities for the Gwinnett School Nutrition Program, including managing the district's chemical, packaging, smallwares, and textile contracts. Rachel earned her bachelor's in culinary arts from Johnson & Wales in Miami, Florida. Her passion for cooking has led to many career highlights, including traveling to South Africa, cooking at the James Beard House in New York, writing a cookbook, and being featured on the Today Show. Rachel is a proud member of the Culinary Institute of America's Healthy Kids Collaborative, the Healthy School Recipe Advisory Board, and the Georgia Department of Education Culinary Advisory Committee. She is a mother of 2 boys, both of whom eat school lunch and breakfast in Gwinnett every day. Thanks for joining us, Rachel. I'll next introduce our second guest panelist, Jen Sheets. Jen Sheets, registered dietitian, received her Bachelor's of Science from the University of Idaho. After 3 years of splitting time between managing a ski area in Wyoming and providing nutrition education in rural Alaska, she changed her career path. Mrs. Sheets' school nutrition career began as the new rules and regulations were implemented. Knowing nothing different, she embraced the meal pattern and began working on a local food culture in a small rural village in Alaska. She currently resides in Wyoming with her husband, Jonathan, and 2 young children. Jen is the school nutrition director and culinary arts instructor for Park County School District number 6 in Cody, Wyoming. Our third guest panelist is Ben Atkinson. Ben Atkinson is the Assistant Director of Child Nutrition at the Auburn School District in Washington State. He really enjoys the summer food service program because he gets to wear shorts and corny shirts with food-related prints on them. But he also enjoys seeing the kids outdoors with their families and siblings. What's not to like about eating food outdoors? Ben worked in hospital food service before coming to Auburn, and also as a clinical dietitian in several community-based clinics. He is still an affiliate instructor in the School of Public Health at the University of Washington. His background has taught him the importance of keeping the community well-fed with good quality and good tasting food. He really likes putting all of his public health and nutrition training into practice for the wonderful kids and families in Auburn. Thanks, Ben, for joining us today. So this is the part where we get to know you as our live audience. So I'm going to launch the first poll question of the day, and I want you to let us know why you're interested in offering grab-and-go meals on your menus. I assume you're interested in some manner because you joined us today. So take a moment and answer this poll question, which will really help our guest presenters understand who they're talking to today as our live audience. So why are you interested in offering grab-and-go meals on your menus? Is it to increase line speed, to increase access to meals, to offer convenience for students on the go, or for ease of service due to limited staff? And please select all that apply, just so that we get a sense. And I'm seeing some of the poll results come in on my screen. So I will share, we'll keep this open for just a bit longer. And we'll see where we end up. There's certainly plenty of selections of each of the 4 options here. And there's, I'm sure, many more reasons why people are interested in grab-and-go meals. So what we have here is 47% of you want to increase line speed, 53% want to increase access to meals, 63% offer convenience to students, and 57% want to ease the service due to limited staff. So reasons across the board. So thank you very much for participating in that poll. That really gives us all a sense for who we have today live on the webinar. All right. I am going to give you just a brief overview today of what we're going to cover. So I will define grab and go. I'll introduce some benefits to grab and go, discuss operational considerations, and I will introduce our new grab and go recipes. So let's begin with an unofficial definition for grab and go. Grab and go is a term that has been used in several different ways, especially during the past 2+ years of the coronavirus pandemic. Before March 2020, we thought of grab and go foods as something quick to buy and convenient to take on the go. After March 2020, school meal programs quickly began serving multi-day meal kits in a grab and go manner via drive-through meal pickup sites. So we all remember that shift to the meal service model, and that was also lovingly called grab and go. So for today's purposes, however, we will go back to that earlier concept of grab and go being prepared and packaged meals that are quick to grab and convenient to eat on the go, just so that you have some context for today. Now, some benefits. Action for Healthy Kids has published a useful grab-and-go breakfast resource that offers tips useful for both breakfast and lunch. So I pulled some of their tips out for today's purposes, but grab and go might be right for you if you have limited seating capacity at breakfast or lunch, if you need to increase line speed, if buses arrive close to the start of the day to the start of the school day, if the cafeteria is located far from the student entrance, in terms of breakfast service. So if you plan to serve grab and go meals outside of the cafeteria, such as where the buses come in, it's important to gain the support of your building stakeholders. Be sure to include administrators, teachers, and custodial staff in early planning discussions. So some additional benefits: the speedier service of grab and go meals increases meal program access, increases line speed, offers convenience for students on the go, and that might apply more to middle school and high school. Nonetheless, it offers that convenience. And it's applicable to the school breakfast program, National School Lunch Program, Summer Food Service Program, of course, and other child nutrition programs. Now, our guest presenters today will share their tips and experiences with including grab and go meals in their operations, and we look forward to hearing from them. Right now, I'll go over some of the basics as it relates to menu planning, packaging, equipment, and service. It's important to develop grab and go menus that appeal to students, of course. So as the menu planner, you want to think of on-trend, portable, handheld meals. You want to think of those customer favorites that can be portable. Menu planners, you can also ensure that the grab and go meal is completely reimbursable, with, of course, additional component choices available at the point of sale, but it's great if it's completely reimbursable. So one example of that additional component could be the cold milk that would go with the meal, but that really simplifies checkout at the POS system. So you also just want to make sure that it's the easy choice for busy students. That's the whole purpose. Bringing in, regarding packaging, bringing in packaging samples as needed is an important way to determine the most suitable option for your grab and go items. You want to make sure that whatever packaging you're using is you can cross utilize for other menu items. For example, clamshell containers for salads, wraps, sandwiches with a side fruit or vegetable. Foil wrappers are useful for burritos, burgers, or warm sandwiches. Those 8 to 12 ounce to-go cups are useful for overnight oats, yogurt parfaits, and for smoothies, as an example. Now, in terms of equipment, there's a lot of different pieces of equipment that could be useful, and it's all going to depend on the uniqueness of your own food service program. Production equipment such as packaging and sealing devices or sealable bags might be necessary. You may also need transport equipment like cold holding carts, hot holding carts, or thermal transport crates that you can get the food from point A to point B while holding temperature, whether it's hot or cold or ambient, that's fine too. The cart that's shown here happens to be hot on the top and can be cold or ambient temperature in the lower compartment. There's so many options, and I'm sure we're going to see lots of other examples from our presenters today. But regarding grab and go, there's a variety of ways to use grab and go in your programs at both breakfast and lunch. So you can do service kiosks that are placed in high traffic areas outside of the cafeteria, as I mentioned earlier, at the entrances where the buses let off. You can have grab and go works also in the service line for a quick choice. It is used in breakfast in the classroom commonly, and secondary school a la carte lines also can offer grab and go options that are a complete reimbursable meal. And vending machines are also used in some school situations where you might have to distribute or disperse meal service options. So those are just a few examples of how meal service might work with the grab and go model. Now, let's do our last getting to know you poll question. So we'll launch this poll, and in this case, we want to know, where are you currently offering grab-and-go meal choices in your food service program? So select all that apply here as well. So where, if you're currently offering it, where is that? Is it on the service line? Is it at a cart or kiosk outside of the cafeteria? Is it in the a la carte line from a food truck maybe, or a vending machine? Or you're not offering grab-and-go choices at this time, and that's fine too. So just take a moment to answer this, and again, select all of the responses that apply to your program, and we will see how the results come in. And I can see here, so far, it's looking like on the service line is the most common, which is not surprising because we know that sometimes it can be tricky to find other areas to serve. So the service line makes the most sense. Some of you do have a kiosk outside the cafeteria or in the a la carte line. I know that is that's about the fourth common here. And then 27% of you say that you're not currently offering grab-and-go choices. So at 1% from a food truck, 2% from a meal vending machine. So those are pretty low, but a few of you out there are offering some of these different food service models. So thank you very much for participating in the poll. Again, that allows us to know who our audience is today. Very good. So I want to quickly introduce to you our 20 new grab-and-go recipes from the Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition. So this is the website you can go to find them. I will give you some highlights. So when you get to our CICN website, you would want to go to the grab-and-go tab at the top. That's circled in red, and then that will navigate you to a page that looks like this, where all of the 20 grab-and-go recipes are listed. They're downloadable PDFs. They're in color. You can print them. So be sure to check those out. These recipes are simple to prepare and serve. They feature on-trend flavor profiles. You might want to check out the backyard barbecue chicken salad, the Mediterranean cucumber salad, sesame ginger slaw, sriracha chicken wrap, or the Thai-style chicken salad, just to name a few. And they look very familiar in that USDA recipe format that are scaled to 50 and 100 servings. The crediting information is at the top, so that will hopefully be useful to you. The second page includes some additional information, of course. And then there's a last page on every recipe that will be a visual recipe guide. And as I mentioned before, these recipes are available as downloadable PDFs from our website for printing as needed. Additionally, we have printed a limited number of grab-and-go recipe sets that are available only through your state agency. So I'll repeat, we have printed a limited number of sets of these recipes, but they are only available through your state agency. So just watch for opportunities to receive a printed set from your state agency office when the time comes. Right now, the ordering is open to them, and so they'll bring them into their facility, and then they'll determine how to distribute that out to program operators in their states or territories. Now that I've introduced today's webinar topic and our new recipes, let's hear from our expert panelists on how they're using grab-and-go meals in their programs. I'll turn it over first to Chef Rachel Petralia.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just to verify, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Well, as Gary said, my name is Rachel Petralia, and I'm very excited to be here today and talk a little bit about grab and go. As you mentioned, I am from Gwinnett County Public Schools, and a little bit about our district.
Hey Rachel.
We are the.
I'm
yes?
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can you click from beginning in the top left? We still don't see the full screen slide just yet. There we go.
Okay, can you see it now?
Perfect.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so a little bit about our district. We are the 12th largest district in the nation and the largest in Georgia, with roughly 180,000 students. And currently we're serving about 61,000 at breakfast and just over 100,000 students at lunch. We have 135 schools and will open a new high school this August. And being in a large district or, larger district, the students really drive the menu. So a lot of what I'll talk to you today about with Grab and Go is really based on a lot of conversations with our managers, our parents, community, and our students, because they really do drive anything that's going to hit the lines. So when we talk about Grab and Go, I think it's really important to realize that this is what our students are expecting. I put a quote up because I've just, found it kind of interesting in that it pertains, but modern consumers' lives are getting faster and they expect their fuel to be able to keep up. And that's very true. So when we think about Grab and Go, some of the benefits of that are the fact that it's tasty. I mean, what's not to love? And in our district, we've had Grab and Go entrees on all of the menus for many years. However, while they're not new, COVID has created the need to expand them, from staffing shortages to wanting the students to get through the lines quicker so that they're not really congregating. We've wanted to take our Grab and Go, tweak it a bit, see if we could expand on it in still a very interesting way and kind of new. While it's something that's popular, it's also very versatile. If you take smart combinations, Grab and Go can be hot, it can be cold, it can follow seasons. So there's a lot of ways to keep it very fresh and exciting for the students. It's also easily executed. The meals often are done ahead of time. If you look at the photos that I have in the screen, I just thought this was a nice example from one of the schools where these were made on a Monday to be used the entire week. Because depending on what the items are, and I'll talk a bit more about this example, but this one is all individually wrapped IW items. They're able to, as they have time or in the afternoon, really set themselves up for a successful week. And that helps when a kitchen might have 4 people call out or they're running short staff, to know that those entrees are just sitting ready to go. So, staffing shortages have certainly been eased by Grab and Go. They're quick and they're convenient, they're portable, and they are certainly a staple from convenience stores to grocery stores, quick service restaurants, hotels, coffee shops. Everyone is doing a version of Grab and Go, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this slide, Gen Z expects it, so it should be on your menu. So let's talk about planning. I thought that Garrett mentioning the fact that it should be a complete reimbursable meal with additional add-ons that you could select as a student to maximize that meal is very smart. Think about the components. For us, that Grab and Go entree is always going to be a 2 meat meal alternate, a 2 bread grain, and a fruit or vegetable. We keep it the same because that allows the cashier at the point of sale to always know what the additional items that a student could select are based on the level, and it keeps any confusion from the students. So however you want your components to be designed, that's fine, but pick a method and kind of stick with it. And that is going to ease production, lessen confusion, and you want Grab and Go to be very seamless. That's the idea of it. You're not going to bottleneck and, have people not wonder what they can pick and can't pick. When you think about your pantry, some of the things I'll show you today, or some of the other panelists might be showing today, might get your head spinning a bit and think, well, I need to add this to my bid and this to my bid, and I'm never going to want to buy that. But start with your pantry, because a nice thing about, you know, what you already have on hand is that your kitchens already know how to work with it. They're already familiar with it. You already have it. And really, if you reconfigure ingredients that are already available to you in a new way, you can create something brand new. So if you're not having to start at ground zero, it's going to open up more time to really focus on flavors, presentation. So just look what you have in your pantry already. A lot of times, you might already be doing a parfait or already doing a smoothie. And if you just tweak the yogurt that's in it or the fruit that's in it, you could get to that grab and go entree, or by adding a few more vegetables to a slice of pizza, or a few more vegetables to, I don't know, a sub sandwich, then you could have that grab and go entree. So really start by looking at what's in your pantry and what's already on your menu. You need to think freshness. According to our students, feeling confident that grab and go entrees are fresh is very important. So of course, when they said that, we said, okay, well, what does fresh mean? And they said transparent packaging, and they really meant just that. They wanted to be able to see the entree that was inside the packaging. And the packaging needed to be clean. So a sub-container that is smudged up from our hands, which can happen, is a no-go and equates to something not necessarily being fresh. Certain brands they can trust, they consider fresh. So think about that when you are selecting any IW items, whether it's a muffin or sunflower seeds or a yogurt, that there are brands that do have a loyalty and a following. Local ingredients were important, and students noted that anytime we could say something was Georgia grown, farm fresh, local, in season, that all of that equals this item is fresh. If it can include raw fruits and vegetables, that was important to our students. And that hot food should be hot and cold food should be cold. So as Garrett mentioned with the equipment, if you're going to have a grab and go station, especially if it's a kiosk away from your serving line or down in a hallway, if it is a hot entree meant to be hot, if it is not hot, that sends a message that it is less important, less quality, a lower value, that it's not fresh. So make sure that it's the right temperature. That can also be done by good communication with the kitchen, batch cooking those hot grab and go items to just make sure that it doesn't feel like an afterthought. You want your grab and go section to really feel special, fresh, tended to. When you are continuing to plan, think about balance. It's important to balance both traditional kind of comfort foods or grab and go items that they're perhaps seeing when they're in a convenience store or at their grocery store. But you don't want to just stay in that wheelhouse, because it can be very easy to, well, I'll pick it up at my grocery store, I'll stop by a gas station on my way in, or why am I going to go through the line at all when I can just pack that myself? So while having some traditional comfort items are important, you want to make sure that you're including unique items, something that can create an experience for the student, feels trendy. You'll see, I put a photo because I thought this was a good example of a grab and go entree that we do that kind of takes that traditional or familiar entree and makes it a little unique. So it's a yogurt bowl, and so the yogurt is just the same base yogurt, but they add spices to them in the kitchen. And so one has cardamom, one has ginger, one has turmeric, and then some fruit puree and fresh fruit, and then just kind of a fun garnish with the sesame seeds and the toasted coconut. And so just making it slightly unique or something that they can really only get if they're coming to your cafe and having your meal is, a great way to do this participation. And then they can pick up a Nutri Valley round to get that bread grain for our grab and go yogurt bowl. Variety is important. Students will give up being able to customize something for speed of service and convenience and ease. However, they're still going to want a choice. So 3 is good. I find that when you get too many more than 3, again, you could create that bottleneck where now they're trying to select between 5 or 6 different items. You want this to be a quick transaction. So if you're providing 3 different choices, that really works well. It also works really nicely if you start to work in some sort of rotation. So if every Monday is subs and chopped salads, then they kind of know while what is on those might change a little bit so they don't get fatigued during my follow seasons. They start to learn what to expect and exactly where to go during service. So provide a little bit of variety, but not too much, and start to work in a rotation so the students can start to familiarize themselves with exactly what you serve on what day. And don't forget flavor. I think it's so important to say it can't just be fast. So if it's fast and it doesn't taste good, that's a problem. It needs to be extremely flavorful. And what we consider flavor, we're just going to go ahead and ramp that up because students are expecting not spicy, and sometimes it gets confused for spicy, but bold flavor. And if you say it's a sweet heat, then it should be that. Or if it has a smokiness to it or a barbecue, don't forget the flavors. The flavor is important. So now when you're executing, I'm just going to talk briefly about, what to think about in execution. Presentation, you want to make a visual impact. Presentation is huge. Make it interesting and pay attention to the details. Entrees should be bright. They should be colorful. They need to be set up in well-lit areas. Make sure that you replenish. The photo that I showed earlier of the speed rack, that was one of about 7 for that school. Now, they're not going to, on Monday, roll all those out onto the serving line because, again, that's going to take away from the freshness factor and makes it feel like we're just trying to get really ahead because we don't know what to expect this week and want to put a lot of entrees out here for you. That is not at all what you want to have with your grab and go areas. So while you might be completely prepared and well-stocked back at house, you want to make sure that you're replenishing in small increments to keep it looking fresh. So don't overload or it just kind of comes across as a lack of care. Think about the location. It should be easily accessible, consistent, so that students know exactly where to go for cold grab and go and exactly where to go for hot grab and go. Make this work for your school and your serving style and get creative. Look at what's working on the commercial side and try different things. It might take a couple rounds to figure out exactly what will work. The packaging, don't forget, it should either be clear or we've also found that foil with a simple label will work well. And then having signage that is clear, appealing, easy to see is important. You want to make it one stop. Students will not be able to, in most cases, customize anything in your grab and go area. And that's fine because it's a choice. So if they're looking to decide exactly what toppings on their salad or exactly what salad dressing, that's what your traditional serving model and your traditional lines is for. So don't get hung up on, well, do we really want to add this condiment to this sandwich or this topping to this salad? Not everybody may like that. Grab and go is unique, and it's not going to be for everyone for every day, but it really should be a one-stop where I pick it up, it's absolutely complete unless I want to maximize that meal, and I'm on my way. When I said look at the marketplace happenings, I truly mean that. It never hurts to get out and do a little bit of a field trip. And some of the places that we have visited in Gwinnett is Buc-ee's, which is taking over in a pretty big way. And the majority of their model is the grab and go. And some of our takeaways were the fact that everything is always laid out in the exact same location, no matter what state you're in, no matter what day you visit. So you know exactly where to go for what you're looking for. Starbucks was another great stop. We found that our students, if they weren't eating in school or at home, one of their favorite places to go to was the coffee shop. When we asked them which coffee shop, Starbucks was one of them. So then seeing exactly what they do for their grab and go selection, what is included, helps us understand what our students were looking for. And students are hitting gas stations at a higher rate than ever, with a lot of them stopping by a gas station about 5 times a week, which is huge. And they're eating at gas stations. So it's great because we all have to get gas. So start walking inside those gas stations and see what they're doing for their grab and go. And it'll just help you get creative, spark some ideas. And I really just wanted to end by showing a little bit about what's working in Gwinnett. So of course we do more cold grab and go than we do hot. But we do some hot grab and go. So this is some examples of those. We have found a lot of success in our dips and chips. And these were born out of necessity from COVID. One of the biggest entrees that our students were missing were nachos and tacos. We stopped doing them because we weren't serving in the cafeteria, and meals were going on buses to homes, and meals were going into the classroom. And you can't put out a topping bar, and tacos can be really messy. So we really just kind of decided, what if we put it all in a bowl, almost as a dip, and then serve chips with it. So I showed 3 examples here, but we have a whole series of these, but it's broccoli and cheese soup, where you're gonna get your meat alternate from the cheese, your veggies from the broccoli, your bread grain from the chips. And then we did the same thing with like a chicken tortilla dip, and then a Southwestern bean dip, where again, these all have enough vegetable to credit, meat alternate, bread grain. The kids can grab them, they're portable, they can eat them on the go. And then of course we have our vegetable pizza. We also have some mashed potato bowls that fall into our grab and go entree selection. And then when it comes to cold entrees, the sky's the limit. Tweaking our chef salads, make those grab and go, whether it's fruits or vegetables. We just make sure we get to that half cup. You'll note, I think it's kind of interesting, our chicken salad, when I kind of said start with your pantry, our chicken salad had almost enough fruit to credit as a half a cup. So then it was like, well, we can fix that. And so we just ramped up the amount of fruit being added to it. And then we have our chicken and we have our saltine crackers. And that's been very popular in the grab and go case. We have some of the IW items that I was talking about where these could be done well in advance. That has been very important as we navigate staffing shortages. So we did add some things like cheese cubes that are prepackaged, bean dip, taco hummus that's shelf-stable, prepackaged sunflower seeds. And all of those can just be combined in fun ways to become a grab-and-go entree. We include with those packaged raisins. We also have some shelf-stable packaged fruit, and all of that just gets packed in together, and they're on their way. Now, for next year, we're going to continue to expand our grab-and-go entrees. Like I said, we've always had them. We kind of expanded because of COVID. Students love them. So some of the things that we have to add, we have in line to add are just some like turkey, nice protein, chicken that's been seasoned. Again, the bean dip has gone over really well, so we're adding a new flavor profile. It's shelf-stable. They can use these as emergency meals. But once you get started, I think that you will find the sky's the limit in all the different combinations that you can put together. I hope you found some of this helpful as you're navigating lunch, and I'm now going to turn it over to Jen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jen Sheet, School Nutrition Director with Park County School District 6 in Cody, Wyoming. I'm going to share with you how we accomplish grab-and-go service during the summer in multiple communities, utilizing multiple partner organizations to help us address staff shortages. First thing we do is look at our community and those that surround us. You should check out your community. What programming already exists that you can partner with? If you aren't aware of all that's happening, reach out to your school's front office staff. They usually have a really good idea of what kids are up to in the summer. Some ideas to spark your brainstorming are summer church programs, library programs, popular parks like skate parks, summer programs such as extended school year or kindergarten readiness within your school district, youth clubs like the Boys and Girls Club or YMCA, your community's park and recreation department, youth programming, splash pads, or perhaps you have private entities that do summer camps related to STEM. Take note of the addresses they list on their registration materials and if they advertise offering food for the kids. Once you have gathered possible sites, head over to the No Kid Hungry Average Eligibility Map. It will show you if your summer meal site is located in an area eligible based on the USDA's averaging policy, right? To get started, type the address of your potential summer meal site into the search bar at the top of the map. Look at the color, orange, blue, or gray, of that address located on the map. Addresses that are orange or blue are going to both be eligible without further applications and things like that. If you find potential partners because their sites are orange or blue, it's time to reach out. One example of a partnership I have is with our local recreation summer youth programming. I called them up and said, hey, can I help you out by providing 2 meals a day to your youth programs? Seems like all potential partners ask how much it will cost. I tell them, a bit of your staff's time. All I need from you is someone to let me know how many meals you would like, hand those meals out, check off a roster, and complete a piece of paper indicating how many meals you served and put the trays back in the cart. I never call it a production record up front because, well, it's a weird word and it scares some away. I then assure them that I will take care of the rest: food prep, delivery, and dishes. They usually are a bit resistant because it does sound a little bit too good to be true. So an in-person follow-up is sometimes needed to convince them that they can advertise that they have free food for all the kids and it's a win-win for their program and supply budget. So let's dive into how we do it here in Cody. We operate a central kitchen year-round. All the production and warehousing happens in a single location, and is transported around our district via box van delivery truck. If you don't have this set up, don't turn your ears off just yet. We have also used the school fleet to accomplish distribution. It is amazing what you can fit inside a Suburban or a cargo van. Packing days are a bit wild and yield a healthy mess, but it's worth it when you see and hear, "The food is here," from the kids you deliver to. It's worth the sea of boxes, the prep labor for entree salads, the hot handling of cobblers, and the chaos of hundreds of sandwiches. Speaking of sandwiches, you can see here we use burger buns. We have limited storage space, so when we can get multiple meals out of one item, it really shines. Burgers, crispy chicken sandwiches, deli sandwiches, all go on burger buns. We do the same with hot dog buns, hot dogs, chili dogs, meatball subs, Phillies, and so on. We too, like everyone else, have a very hard time procuring single-use wares to create beautiful entree salads and yogurt parfaits. When we can get them, we do, and take advantage of the no-dish days. But we had to come up with a more reliable solution beyond the paper bag and clamshell. I started digging around for meal delivery solutions to single-use ware supply chain issues, and I stumbled upon these lidded trays. They have multiple makeups and sizes, but I went with what mimicked our school lunch trays the most. Which we did find. I found my 6-compartment lidded tray solution hidden under the correctional facilities recommendations. These trays are ideal for individual grab-and-go service lines. The lids help maintain temperatures and separate each compartment while reducing risks of spills. I can tell you from multiple drop tray experiences, these do contain the mess. It is so nice not to have the food scattered everywhere. Locking ridges on the top of the covers and bottom of the tray also help with stacking and transport of these trays. Even though the manufacturer says these trays hold temperature, we found that it was not as true as advertised, at least not in the manner we're using them. So I try to write menus with everything the same temp, all hot held or all cold held. It is a bit challenging, but is not impossible, especially with this summer food service program menu pattern. Oftentimes we use canned fruit straight from the can, so we found that to be acceptable on these all tray temps too. It helps us so we can have some variety beyond cobblers, crisps, and warm cinnamon applesauce. Our kiddos are used to eating peaches and pears right out of the can, and maybe yours are too. Also, at the time of this menu, we had a contract with hot delivered pizza vendor, so we could easily mix pizza day temperatures as well. Using time as a food safety control gives us 4 hours from the time the food leaves our holding facilities to be consumed at our partner sites. We make sure each meal is a complete reimbursable meal to take the burden off of our sites. We deliver these trays with pre-chilled, shelf-stable milk cartons to take the pressure off of our feeding sites to have proper holding equipment. These insulated, not temperature-controlled, tray carts is what we use to move the trays. We do preheat bricks and put them in the bottom on hot days, or an ice sheet on the top on cold days. With clever stacking, 3 trays per shelf and 4 on the very top, we can get 84 in a cart that's advertised to transport 60. And on cold days, we typically can get 78 in that same cart that says we should be moving 60. Initially, I bought 2 sets of trays and lids per site. I was worried about the returns and washing. It turned out to be excessive. I only needed 1 to pull this off. We also use cardboard boxes and insulated cooler bags to move food around. Think about how quickly you can get your food to each site. A 10-15 minute jaunt across town may do very well in a cardboard box, but longer trips may require some insulation. Just to keep the meals appealing to kids. Next, I'll give you a glimpse at our service line. As you look at this on the right-hand side, you can see carts ready and full of trays. Kids flow through the service line and select their milk choice. Since the trays stack so nicely on top of each other, you can pull out a bunch and keep the rest at your holding cart. From there, kids can go to a traditional eating area or take their meals outside. The lidded solution truly makes this a great grab-and-go option. After the meal service time has concluded, we return to pick up our dirty trays, lids, and flatware. Bonus for the sites that train their kids to dump the trays first. It really is worth that talk. We bring them back and wash, rinse, and sanitize both the dishes and the carts so they are ready for the next day. I hope this glimpse into how we run grab and go in the summer has given you some inspiration in these times with procurement difficulty of individually wrapped items and single-use wares. Feel free to ask me questions in the Q&A, and I will do my best to answer. Now I'm going to turn this over to Ben. Ben, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me here at the ICN. I won't reintroduce myself, but my contact info is up on the screen if you have any questions. I'm going to skip a little fast through the slides and really focus on the transportation of the food, partly because Jen and Rachel had incredible pictures of food, so you don't need to see my less incredible pictures of food. But as Garrett mentioned in the intro, we do like to have fun here in Auburn, Washington. So here's a picture of some of the fun summer food themed shirts that I'll be wearing in July and August. About half of these are made by my wife, so I have to give her a little bit of credit. Okay, focusing on the transportation aspect of getting your grab and go food out in your summer program. One thing I've really learned in the last 2 years is to partner with folks who know more than me. And in the case of our school district, that's been the transportation department. There are quite a few families that we wouldn't have known about who had, really special needs without our transportation department. Just like we see most kids daily in our cafeterias, they see each student each day and know quite a bit about their life circumstances. And the slide you're seeing right now, the other nice thing they provide is help with routing. This was so much better than me pasting a bunch of Google Maps together. So they had some fancy routing software that would give us accurate directions, distances, things like railroad crossings. So that was like super helpful over the last 2 years. They've also helped train our drivers so that we can be a little bit safer out on the road. And the software they use also provides some nice maps to help with training our folks who are driving our vehicles around. Again, I'm not spending much time on this food because Jen and Rachel did such a great job. Here's a basic idea of our menus. Some quick pictures. The one thing I do want to highlight real quick is that that's not pink slime. That's homemade ice cream that we make here in the summertime. And I usually call in some grad school interns into doing this because it's a little labor intensive. But you can see us mixing, freezing, and then serving the homemade ice cream. Okay, so for the delivery of your grab and go meals, we personally operate 8 delivery vans. And you can see we've utilized our Windows 95 version of clip art to make some graphics on the side of the vans. That's a little joke that you might get if you're over like 35 or 40 years old. And while they look a little corny, the kids now like recognize what these vans are and will run down the street and meet us at the next park while we're serving in our summer program. Each van holds one small warming cabinet that we plug in prior to loading the van so that it's hot. We, for safety, strap that piece of equipment to the side and the floor of the vehicle. And we also had some sturdy bulkheads installed between the cargo area and the passengers for safety. We then put 4 to 8 large soft-sided coolers with ice packs to hold the rest of the food inside the vans. And we have a 4 to 6 foot lightweight table that we put out at each of our service stops to do offer versus serve. Using this model, we can serve anywhere from 100 to 300 meals in about a 2-hour long van route. And the next phase in our delivery vehicles is taking shape as we speak. We do have a food truck being built. It is taking way longer than anticipated. We put this out for bid this last summer, and it is just now getting started, but we think it will be done by the end of May. So what we did was we took a 20-foot step van that our maintenance department was done using. We worked with a food truck operator and also an engineer to design the layout and workflow, and think we can give our kids a nice experience and better quality food from this vehicle. The picture at the bottom right shows the engineered plans. And Washington has very strict rules from what I hear about food truck design and build. So we have had to run through multiple state, county, and city agencies to get everything approved and built. I talked a couple slides ago about our current van operations, and the next phase with those vans is to provide more active cooling and heating in the form of reach-in refrigerators and actually keeping that warming cabinet plugged in while we drive around and serve the kids. We have a contract now to design the units, the vans, using battery packs and solar panels to keep these units powered while we're driving around. The peak power need is going to be about 2,000 watts. That'll have 2 refrigerators and 1 warming unit. And we believe that 1 battery pack and solar panels on the top of the van will be enough to power those for 5 or more hours. The nice thing about the system we're going to use is they can be charged just using a standard 110 volt outlet over about 6 to 8 hours. So can easily charge them up overnight. So this is what they'll look like, again, using my clip art skills. The picture on the left, you'll see a battery pack that's going to be up towards the front of the van. A reach-in refrigerator will also be up towards the front of the van and accessible out the sliding side door. The picture on the right is showing where the warming oven and another reach-in refrigerator will be mounted right at the back of the van and will serve right out of the back and do offer versus serve, again with a small folding table out front to display the food for the kids. So we're pretty excited about summer here in Auburn, Washington, and hope you're getting excited about it too. Please contact me if you have any questions, and thank you so much for having me here. I'll pass this back to Garrett now.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jen, and thank you, Chef Rachel, so much for sharing your expertise on this topic. We do have several questions in Q&A. I know each of you have taken some time to answer some questions directly, so some of those questions may have been answered and are available to look at the answer, the text answer. So I will ask a few of these questions here live. And today is one of those rare days that we're going to just go a little bit over our webinar time because it was so engaging and we have some really great questions at the end. So bear with us while we take a few extra minutes to answer some questions. I have questions for each of you, and then we'll go through some of these that came in from our audience. But first, I would like to ask to each of you if any of you have open campuses at the secondary level, and if so, are you capturing the students as they're going out to grab lunch with their friends? I know Chef Rachel, you mentioned the convenience stores. I don't know if that's like an open campus thing. So share with us if that's a situation that you're encountering.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah.
I've been so nervous about my connection. We do not have open campuses, so we have, we have them captured, which is nice. However, we look to the convenience stores and things like that because that's where they're hopping to before school, after school, and bringing things. They can bring anything onto campus. And so it helps us both know what they're looking for and what their expectations are, and to know a bit of what that, competition is, because if they're not dining with us and they are packing something, a lot of times it's those items.
Yeah. That's a good, and I'm so glad that you brought that up earlier, because you do really need to see what your customers are finding outside of the school, and that what they're drawn to in terms of convenient food options. So thanks for that. Ben or Jen, do you have open campus that you're dealing with?
This is Jen. I do have open campus. We don't usually compete with them leaving, but a lot of them will come and see us after they've already been out. So it's like the very end of the lunch period, we then have another rush, but so it is helpful to have grab and go at that point.
Gotcha. I know that some school districts that do have open campus will set up a lunch kiosk at the exits, and they'll capture the students who want to grab a meal before they go out with their friends for a few different reasons. One, it increases access to free meals, and it meets the needs of the students who, before the pandemic would qualify for free or reduced meals anyway. So it kind of reduces a stigma or eliminates a stigma of getting a meal from school, but also being able to go out with a friend. So if you have open campuses, consider that as an option.
Well,
I want to, yeah.
I was just going to add that while we don't have an open campus, they can sit outside, and a lot of our high schools have a kiosk where they essentially take a serving unit or a cart out to those exits where there is a courtyard or a green space, so that students can both get exactly where they want to in that outdoor location and still get a meal.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that element too, that students can go outside. So there, a question came in early on. It says, has the terminology grab and go been taken a look at as contractors and summer food service program equate grab and go with non-congregate feeding, which is not authorized this summer? It appears to be a misnomer, and perhaps there's another way to promote not using the grab and go language. So yeah, thank you for asking that question. I hear what you're saying. Grab and go is kind of a common commercial food service term for something that's like served conveniently, which is why we used the term for the set of recipes that we just released, because they're convenient recipes that are easily packaged and served packaged instead of out in bulk. So that's the use of the term there. And then as far as grab and go relates to summer food service program, you're right. The sites for summer food service are meant to be, the food is meant to be served and consumed on site, at least this summer going forward, and before pandemic times. So in terms of using the phrase grab and go, perhaps it's more of easy serve or something like that. But the concept is, some of these recipes that we've shared today, from the CICN, they can be prepared and packaged and included as an easily served convenient meal that is intended, of course, for summer food service program to be consumed on site. That could be at a park where students will come pick up their meal and then go off to a tree across the way and sit in the shade with a friend and eat their meal that way. So I hope that addresses the question. But yeah, this is not intended to imply that the meals can be taken off-site for SFSP. Okay, Jen, lots of questions about your trays with the lid. So if you could, I know you've answered it by text, but if you could just share where, like, how you found them and, you know,
Sure,
any highlights.
So, sure. These are manufactured by Cambro. I'm gonna drop it into the chat box for everybody right there. The way that I stumbled upon them is from time in institutional kitchens. So I knew that they had a little different needs. So when I typed in those search parameters, I found them, and hopefully you will find them helpful. They're more lightweight than a traditional 6-compartment lunch tray, which we really love. The kids, they're lighter for the kids, and then they're also lighter for all your staff flying through all the dishes. So they're definitely a win-win. The lids do warp occasionally, so make sure you get an extra case of lids so you can deal with that as it comes. But yeah.
Thank you, Jen. I think you've inspired a lot of people to look at that as an option for a washable, reusable, tray example. Ben, I want to turn to you. First of all, homemade ice cream in your summer food service program. I will be there this summer on ice cream day. Just make sure you let me know when that is. I'll show up.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. That was actually kind of so I make a lot of ice cream at home, and I wanted to make ice cream at the school district, and the more that I dug into it, it turned out you needed to have licenses from like the USDA and, become a creamery and all this stuff. But what I found out was that a lot of the local ice cream shops use, a good quality base. I'm not going to mention any brands, but if you live in the Northwest, like the fancy ice cream shops around, like I'll use this one base. So we were able to get that into our local distributor, buy some cases of that frozen base. And then, I just mix it about 50-50 with fruit to make it, a little on the healthier side. And it turns out great, and the kids love it. And it's fun to make.
That sounds amazing. Now, just to clarify, you're packaging that, so you make it and then you do single portions, right? To then serve out, sort of convenient style, right?
Yeah. So, and just to be clear, we do have a legit hard ice cream maker. This is not the soft serve like Dairy Queen, McDonald's kind of stuff. This is hard ice cream. So we'll package it up in some compostable 4-ounce containers with a compostable lid, and we find that's a nice way to serve the kids. And again, they love it.
Yeah. So Ben, while I have you, a question came through about just the packaging that's used for grab and go. So actually there's 2 questions. One is sourcing packaging. And if you're able to find packaging that is cost effective, that you can cover the cost of the packaging, because sometimes it's pretty expensive. And then another is, any sources of packaging that's recyclable or compostable, is that an option and available?
Go
ahead.
Are you asking me, Garrett? I didn't cover this as much as Jen and Rachel did, and they, I think, honestly have better options than me. I will just say it's a daily struggle. I don't think I'm sure I'm running into the same exact issues that everybody else is running into. We do spend a lot of time working with our distributor to get the items in stock, but I have honestly had to go out to who knows where on the intranets and find places to buy packaging materials.
Yeah, excellent. There were questions too that came in for Chef Rachel on like your menus, your menu examples, etc. I want to encourage, I hope this is okay, Rachel, I want to encourage people to follow Cafe Gwinnett on Instagram, because I'll be real honest, I get a lot of inspiration from that Instagram feed. And I know, sometimes it's difficult for our guest presenters to share recipes directly, and it's hard for us to coordinate that. But I know, Chef Rachel, some of your recipes are available on Healthy School Recipes website. Is that correct?
Yes, so we definitely have recipes on the Healthy School Recipes website. And then also, if anybody's on Facebook, we have a Gwinnett County, it's the association page. It's kind of driven by our managers. And we post in, I think it's called Files, and we will post recipes there. And then of course, well, it's not gonna be that useful right now, but we have NutriSlice, which is our menu app that anybody can look up and see our menus. However, I don't know how up to date it is. We're in the middle of writing next year's menus. And I will share with Garrett anything I can get to him. He knows I'm horrible with deadlines, but I'm more than happy to share. It's just, sometimes it's time.
Yeah. Well, again, no pressure there, but I will say Cafe Gwinnett on Instagram is what you'd want to follow for some inspiration there. And it's pretty great. We have fallen short on time today, and I just appreciate all of you so much for hanging on for a little extra, and all of our viewers for hanging on a little extra. I have a few more things to cover before I wrap it up, but I'm going to start that process now. So actually, let me back up. Was there anything from any of the presenters that we didn't cover that you wanted to make sure to mention? Doesn't sound like it. Perfect. Then, so moving on from Q&A, our next webinar is on Thursday, May 5th. It's engaging student influencers for product selection, menu planning, and program promotion. So please save the dates. Also, be sure to check out our eLearn learning portal for all of our digital learning options, including our archived webinars. You can find them on our eLearn through the ICN's website. Also, be sure to check out the Child Nutrition Recipe Box and the Child Nutrition Sharing site, also available through the ICN's website. Finally, I just would like to thank our speakers, Chef Rachel Petralia, Jen Sheets, and Ben Atkinson for sharing their expertise. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. This concludes today's webinar. Have a good day.